everybody, welcome into One Nation Weather's forecasts for America, and you can see we're covering a major heat blast coming up this week in this video, as well as some other things, so you want to go ahead and stick around. We're covering all of this in about 10 minutes or so let's get right into it. For now, here's your Saturday setup. You can see we've got some of that very heavy rainfall going into portions of the southeast, resulting in some flooding in the Carolinas, also some showers into portions of the mid-south, but our best widespread coverage of some scattered showers and storms this evening is going to really come into portions of the northern plains, portions coming off the Rockies, as well as into the southern plains for us here. It's really just been a rinse and repeat pattern all week long, and it looks to basically stay like that. Here's your Saturday high temperatures. You can see we're making our way on up into the mid and upper 80s for many spots in this chain from the Dakotas and Minnesota back on to the Gulf Coast. Well, look at how cool we are in the southeast. We've got some 50s and 60s with that system moving, and that's going to be the peak temperatures for today. You can see we've got some 80s in Florida, also some temperatures near 80 in portions of New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, and the Philly area for us there, and temperatures in the low to mid 90s into portions of the southwest, some spots getting closer to 100 there. Now, as we go into your Saturday afternoon, you can see some of these showers and storms pushing onshore as the low begins to. With some of these, we would be watching for some of the tornadic activity if this were a stronger storm, but the good news is most of anything tropical and dangerous looks to stay offshore with this, but the heavy rain is going to be the big threat that is dangerous and comes onshore for us here, as well as some of the gusty winds, at least, as we can see some of these heavier rain bands pushing on up into the Charlotte, North Carolina region, Columbia, South Carolina. Push further north and west as we go into your Saturday night, pushing on up against the Appalachian Mountains for us here. Also notice some of those at least scattered showers back into the mid-south. More of those storms pushing onshore. And then as we go into Sunday afternoon, this makes things optimistic for our Memorial Day, your Monday for us here, because we'll see things really beginning to break apart, and they won't really make it much further than about the southern ends of Indiana and Ohio for us here. This low really looks to get into tatters as we go into Sunday night, other than some scattered showers, again, around the Appalachian Mountains, and that can at least spark some energy for some pop-up storms as we go into our Monday. But here's your rainfall totals expected Saturday through Monday morning from Tropical Tidbits. You can see anywhere in these purple areas you're seeing coming on the shore here, and this is widespread, 2 to 4 inch totals for you there, but some spots could see 4 to 6 in those deeper purple shadings. I think 1 or 2 communities along the immediate coastline might pick up as much as 8 inches of rain, so this is definitely going to be a high flooding potential for us here. Some of these blue areas going further inland will see 1 to 2, but some of these purple areas still indicate as the rainfall makes its way on up into the mountains, it could be enhanced and produce some 2 to 4 inch totals there as well. Now, here's your flood risk Saturday going on into your Sunday for us here. A level 1 risk in general for many areas and portions of northern North Carolina into the Appalachian Mountains, as well as portions of northeast Georgia. But look at how the level 2 risk impacts most of the Carolinas, and then that level 3 risk is right along the immediate coastline from Myrtle Beach on up to the southern end of the Outer Banks for us here. So we certainly need to keep an eye on that. And look at the temperatures that are going to come with this system. I kind of pointed them out earlier. Look at this. We'll only see highs in the 60s to near 70 in many communities. Most temperatures, though, in the 50s as you go, especially further inland where those northeast winds are really kicking up. And here are those winds. This is not temps. These are the winds for you here. Sorry about that. You can see these are in knots, but similar in miles per hour anyway. We'll see some of these 20 to 30 mile per hour sustained winds really off the coast, but certainly some gusts of 20 to 40 miles per hour could come along the immediate coastline. Some 15 to 25 mile per hour gusts probably moving further inland as well. Now, another system we have going on your Saturday is going to enhance our severe risk, not all the way up to the enhanced risk, but certainly to the slight risk, that level 2 risk, portions of southeast Montana all the way on down into the Denver, Colorado area, looking in at some of the severe weather, and that'll go all the way back to the Mexico border. You just don't see it on your screen right now. The wind risk looks to coincide with that severe risk perfectly for us here. Notice how we would have a higher risk if we had more of this energy pushing further north, but it's really low to slight risk, again, with the severe weather due to the low to slight energy moving on up further to the north. So you can see by 2 p.m. Mountain Time, not really looking at much going on. But as we go to Saturday at 4 p.m., 6 p.m., notice how this line starts to develop again. Embedded hail as the line starts, turning more into a damaging wind threat as it pushes over into the Dakotas, especially as we go into the evening. And then as we push towards 10 p.m., notice how this turns into more rainfall than anything, but with some gusty winds and some small hail still embedded in this line. And also notice that cell portions in northern Colorado, that could be severe as well. As we go into this evening, again, flood threat in the southeast, but we have some flooding possible in Montana, the Dakotas, that goes all the way back into Texas, where we have another level 2 risk of flooding. Also some flooding possible into portions of California, Oregon, and Nevada. But as we go into your Sunday for us here, more of that severe that goes from Goodland, Kansas, down into portions of Amarillo, so we're certainly watching out for that. Here we go, 4 p.m. Central Time. You can see more of these storms starting to develop in Texas, spotty in nature. I think they'll be stronger than they look here. Notice how the storms really intensify as we go towards 8 p.m., especially into portions of western and central Nebraska, Kansas, as well as into the panhandle of Texas. These storms, again, intensifying, getting to their peak heating of the day, getting into that energy around 6, 7, 8 o'clock Central, and then tapping into that, continuing into the 10 p.m. Central time frame before they weaken overnight. Your Monday setup looks like this. In general, mainly dry across Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, and Missouri, but we have an area along a warm front in the Dakotas and Minnesota, as well as an area back into Texas, and more of that shower coverage possible in the southeast as that low-pressure system lingers. But in general, your Memorial Day looks to stay on the drier side, other than the scattered chances of rain. And then the big story turns to these temperatures for us here. You can see Monday p.m. We'll look at these temperatures getting well into the 80s in many communities, even into the north portions of Michigan, portions of the northeast, mid-80s. We'll still see some 70s in the southeast for us here. You can see your Monday severe risk looks like this. Portions of North and South Dakota getting in on at least a level 1 risk for us here, which is why your Memorial Day at least needs to be watched for in these areas. Again, some of these yellow kinks on this more zoomed out RGEM model, those could indicate some stronger cells, maybe one going into Iowa as well for us here into your Monday night. Some of these storms continuing, and again, briefly producing probably wind and hail as their main threats. The general pattern for this week is going to build that heat wave. Look at this. We've got this red area, a big ridge of high pressure getting going for us here, and that's really just going to impact the pattern all week long. Look at these temperatures. You can see the chain of 90s moving out of the plains, the upper 80s to near 90, still in the low to mid 80s in many spots in the plains, but look at how the 90s push further east, portions of Wisconsin, portions of Michigan, all the way back to the Gulf Coast, upper 80s, low 90s. It is going to be hot. It's going to be humid at times as well. We'll see some pretty mild temperatures in the northeast and the eastern zones initially, but as we go into Wednesday, more of these mid-90s into portions of even Chicago seeing temperatures near 90 on your Wednesday. It is going to be hot. Also some heat into the northern tier, the southern tier. It's really just going to be a warm week in general for many communities. The southeast is going to be one of the exceptions where it's more closer to normal. Notice how these pinker areas in the northeast could get us closer to 90 on Thursday. And there we go, temperature departures looking well above average from Montana all the way on over to Maine. Some of these pink, even those grayish colors indicating anywhere from around 12 to 24 degrees below average, or excuse me, above average. We're going to be anywhere from around 10 to 20 degrees below average into portions of the south and west as we go into our Thursday for us here. And notice the southeast kind of around to slightly below normal. Now, as we go into your Tuesday afternoon, what storms are going to tap into this heat? Notice some scattered showers in the southeast, some scattered showers into portions of Texas, as well as some storm coverage in the north. But the main trend we're going to notice as we go Wednesday into Thursday, the central and northern tier of the country is going to have some of these scattered afternoon storms each day. This is not a washout, but certainly everybody bringing in the chance for some of this rain and storm coverage even as we go into Friday afternoon, which is why we look like this as we go with your severe risk this week. The Storm Prediction Center not highlighting any days, so that's the good news, but I'd say just a low-end risk for severe weather at times from the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, all the way back into portions of Texas, New Mexico, and Oklahoma. We'll watch that area. Of course, for you here, we'll also see some of those showers and storms popping up into portions of Florida, but the interesting change with the temperature anomaly at the end of the weekend, notice how cooler air looks to filter back into portions of the Great Lakes and the Northeast, while the Northwest looks to continue with the heat and maybe warm up more than what you were at in those areas. So we'll keep an eye on that for you here. But for now, go ahead and subscribe to One Nation Weather for more forecasts for America by hitting the like button as well. You will get me more subscribers. Hit the credits as well.